A searchlight stutters across mangroves, while thunder pretends to be far away. After hours at the Gulf Ark Wildlife Complex means forklifts humming like lullabies and cameras that blink when told to nap. Ray Navarro, field vet, bad with authority, worse with lies, walks the service lane counting breaths and pill packets. This job was supposed to be a sabbatical from crisis medicine. It became a front row seat to a private zoo that brands itself a sanctuary and behaves like a showroom. The film opens on competence. She stitches a jaguar with hands that don't tremble, logs the dose, and notices the thing that's wrong because she always does. The sedative vials read lighter than the logbook says they should. By sunrise, the storm has downgraded, but the day hasn't. A boardwalk tour glides by enclosures with curated facts. Apex predators regulate ecosystems, while a silent transport crate, mud on its casters, waits near the research wing. Leela Grant, head of security and former ranger, walks Ray through new, guest flow routes with the tone of a woman sent to sell policy she didn't write. Cameras are being moved, a blind spot created. If you've worked any facility with big teeth and bigger donors, you know what that means. A transfer nobody wants on a ledger. Mason Kincaid enters with a smile that was expensive to perfect. He's the complex's fixer, fundraising face, logistics brain, rumored to have grown up running exotic shipments through airport shadows before learning to wear better shoes. He asks Ray for a medical sign-off on a temporary relocation of 3 animals to a partner facility upstate. She reads the list: a king cobra, a pair of African wild dogs, and a tiger whose paperwork spells its subspecies like someone Googled it fast. The scene teaches the first rule of this movie's world. When the paperwork uses vague nouns, the plan has sharp edges. Theo, a teen volunteer with a sketchbook and a talent for being in the wrong corridor at the right time, becomes our witness. He feeds capybaras and hears a cough in the maintenance hall, not illness but diesel. He lifts his phone, records a forklift staging a crate under camera's blind arc, and texts a clip to Ray because she's the only adult who ever answers questions instead of handing out smiles. The title turns literal in small moments. A handler, careless with a latch, learns that a non-venomous snake can still remind you of physics. A donor leans too far into a photo op and discovers that glass is not the same thing as distance. But the film's thesis lands in a quieter shot. Ray, palm on a tiger's flank, saying out loud to no one that the animal isn't dangerous, conditions are. Dangerous animals are the ones who write conditions and call them inevitable. The public day plays on 2 tracks, wholesome spectacle for the feeds and backstage choreography that smells like a countdown. Ray pulls inventory and finds sedatives diluted. Leela pulls badge logs and finds ghosts, swipe-ins without bodies. Mason pulls strings. A donor tour reroutes perfectly at the minute a truck needs the service road. The facility's research partnership, a biotech outfit named CarRN, hosts a press demo of a thermal tag that supposedly protects animals by tracking their heart rates in real time. Ray does the vet math and hears monetized stress. Character lines sharpen. Ray isn't the saintly crusader trope. She's a professional who hates being handled. Leela isn't a brick wall. She's a door with hinges if you show her the right reports. Mason isn't a cartoon. He's the kind of man who can say, "We all love animals," while moving them like inventory. Theo isn't a plucky mascot. He's a kid who knows adults often need proof more than they need truth. The inciting rupture arrives without shouting. A monsoon feeder band hits at 2:17 p.m. The park closes early. The research wing doesn't. Ray follows a supply cart through a propped fire door and a hallway where vents hum loud enough to hide a radio. Inside a cold room, she finds a row of sample coolers big enough to ship a body. One is marked with a tape code that matches the crate Theo filmed. Another bears a QR label that resolves to a charity name Ray recognizes from a foundation gala. The same people who adopt a habitat on social and run shipments through bonded warehouses in real life. Rule 2 arrives. In this world, safety videos are PR and the only thing that actually keeps you alive is procedure. When the power browns out and backup lights stutter, a handler cuts corners with a cobra tube. Ray steps in, gets the animal into a ventilated box with the ease of someone who respects fear, and watches Mason perform concern just long enough to turn it into leverage. He needs her sign-off more than he wants to admit. The second act locks the puzzle pieces together. Theo's clip, paired with badge anomalies and diluted meds, tells Leela enough to move from suspicion to plan. She doesn't call the city. She calls a wildlife crimes task force with a captain who still picks up her phone. Protocol will take hours. The truck is leaving in minutes. The movie makes a choice here. It doesn't turn Leela into a one-woman raid. It turns her into a coordinator of competence. Ray and Leela split tasks. She'll stall the medical release. Leela will reroute the truck through a random wait check at the service gate and make sure cameras accidentally wake up. Theo, not invited, becomes useful anyway by noticing the simplest thing. The crate method for the wild dogs is wrong for canids. A sign this transfer was wrote by someone who moves weight, not lives. He sketches the catch points, shows Ray, and watches her change the shape of her doubt into a plan. Mason's mask slips 3 degrees, exactly enough. He threatens politely, contracts non-disclosure, donors who could have funded Ray's free clinic dream for a decade if she'd played along. He offers the cheaper sedative, the one that burns out an animal's life faster, in a tone that knows how close she is to saying yes. The film is honest about temptation's grammar. It sounds like compromise, comes printed on letterhead, and mentions the greater good like a coupon code. The movie's ecosystem, in the meantime, keeps being itself. Guests, evacuated for weather, linger under awnings filming peacocks because beauty insists. A storm drains, chokes on palm fronds, and frees itself with a sound like a sigh. The tiger sleeps, shallow and even, trusting no one and everyone equally. Dangerous Animals keeps insisting on its central inversion. Teeth and venom are less frightening than budgets and branding. A storm night turns the park into a chessboard. The truck idles at the east gate. Leela's team stages a gate malfunction, and an alternate route through the maintenance road lined with the only cameras Ray knows aren't asleep. Mason adjusts without flinching. Men like him invent contingencies as hobbies. He splits the shipment, 1 crate and the coolers through the gate, 1 crate to the river dock, for safety. Splitting means any one success is still a win. It also means he just gave the heroes a choice that will cost them something. Ray's arc turns from suspicion to agency. She forges a stall by feigning an adverse reaction in the tiger, slows its breathing with a legal sedative, logs the event in a way that forces review, buys 15 minutes. The trick costs her. If the animal doesn't clear within an hour, it will be marked medically unstable, and Mason will claim emergency authority to remove it anyway. She risks a life for time and hates herself correctly. She calls it what it is, triage. Theo graduates from witness to accomplice. He knows the service dock better than anyone because volunteers fetch things adults don't want to fetch. He also knows how to make a floodlight think the sun rose, which startles the wild dogs into a corner where Ray can work with them without panic becoming policy. His courage isn't loud, it's focused. The film respects that. It never hands him a hero's speech, only a job to do and the space to do it. Leela, out by the gate, plays calm chess with men who wear contractor like a shield. She creates layers, a city inspector who happens to be lost, a wildlife officer who just wants a peek, a forklift that breaks down at the worst place to block a truck. The scene builds threat by believable inches. The antagonist isn't a goon, it's a workflow with muscle. Character histories fill in without pausing the plot. Ray's clinic dream wasn't abstract. She burned out rescuing dogfight survivors in border towns and promised herself she'd pick a fight she could win next time. Leela lost a ranger partner to a nighttime stop where paperwork didn't stop a bullet. She keeps rules because they keep people. Mason grew up translating for a father who bartered parrots under tarps, learned that law is a service the rich buy and the poor endure, and decided to stop being poor. The movie doesn't excuse him, it contextualizes him, then lets him choose anyway. The why of the scheme clarifies. Karajan's pitch to donors was conservation through connectivity. The secret deck says something else, biometric monetization. Heart rate tags and thermal maps feed a platform that turns animal stress into data, data into engagement, engagement into money. The living become dashboards, the dashboards become leverage. Some animals disappear into partnership labs because it's easier to control a metric when you control the organism. The wild dog's crate isn't headed to a sister facility, it's headed to an unlisted hangar where tags become implants. The Cobra and coolers ride along because demand never sleeps. Ray and Theo stage a near disaster to prevent a real one. They discover a leak in the dock piping that forces an evacuation. Sprinkler systems and storm runoff make the dock unsafe. In the chaos, Theo swaps a tracking puck from the illegal crate to a decoy pallet of enrichment toys. It's a small heist inside a bigger one, built on timing and nerves. Dangerous Animals prefers this kind of tension, procedure made thrilling, over jump scares. The middle stretch spikes. Leela's stall works too well. The contractor calls the county commissioner who owes the complex 3 ribbon cuttings, and a supervisor orders the gate open. Mason smiles without using lips. The truck rolls. Ray, watching on a tablet rigged into security feeds, knows the decoy bought minutes, not salvation. She calls the only person who can help now, the task force captain, who answers from a bridge jammed by weather and says the adult line nobody likes to hear: hold them if you can, document if you can't. The film keeps its promise not to cheapen consequences. The wild dogs, restless from stormlight and strangers, bounce off crate walls. Ray kneels, whispers, taps, builds a rhythm the animals learn in seconds the way living things do when fear needs a handle. Theo holds the latch as if faith were a material. Leela keeps talking, finding new paperwork, new forms of weight, to hand to men trained to respect only go. Mason loses patience at last, and steps into the open as the thing he always was, a broker of harm who believes in his math. The approach to the climax narrows to three simultaneous problems: a truck pulling away with a tiger ray sedated on the edge, a river dock where a crate and coolers are staged for a boat that shouldn't exist on paper, and a data room where Karian's tag system will be wiped clean of the only logs that prove intent. The film holds all three without losing clarity because it respects spatial logic. Distances are distances, time is cost. Ray's decision is the kind that changes a life even if no one sees it. She can race the truck and risk waking a big cat mid-transport, or she can cut the straps, call the emergency release she is not authorized to call, and ground the move in paperwork that will get her fired or sued. She chooses the action that protects the organism. It looks reckless to anyone who has never had to trade career for breath. To people who have, it looks like Tuesday. Leela's decision is smaller, harder, whether to escalate with force or hold the line with process until backup arrives. She remembers the night rules didn't save her partner and chooses rules again, not because she is naive, but because she wants to still be herself tomorrow. She posts a guard at the gate camera, keeps radios hot, logs every minute like it's evidence, because it is. Dangerous Animals admires this kind of courage more than the cinematic kind. Theo's decision is the film's quietest triumph. In the server room, left unguarded because the storm sent everyone to doors and docks, he follows a cable path like a racetrack and unplugs a backup battery that would have powered the wipe even in a blackout. It's not a hacker fantasy, it's a kid who paid attention. The movie stops where it should, on thresholds. The truck's brake lights redden rain, a strap snaps under Ray's hand, the dock floodlight pops as wind turns sudden. A skiff noses into view, then hesitates at the sight of uniformed jackets that didn't used to stand there. In the server room, a progress bar freezes at 73%. Mason checks his watch, hears sirens stitched to thunder, and does the math that men like him do in storms. Risk versus runway, money versus prison, reputation versus rebrand. We don't see the definitive tackles, the ruled motions, or the post-raid press conference. The film preserves its no-spoiler boundary by letting consequence be implied, not cashed out. What we do get is the moral geometry resolved. Ray chose organism over job title and will live with the cost. Leela chose process over spectacle and will still be the person you trust at a gate when it matters. Theo chose courage that doesn't trend. Mason chose himself, and the world will judge what that means. After images give the story its staying power. A vet clinic ledger with a new name scribbled in the margin. A dock with a repaired light and a sign about transfers that now require 2 independent witnesses. A server rack with a handwritten note. Batteries unplugged after storms. A pair of wild dogs asleep in dry hay, breathing matched. A tiger blinking awake under tarp, annoyed and alive. Dangerous Animals keeps its promise. It isn't about claws, it's about systems. It makes a thriller out of procedure, a villain out of convenience, and a hero out of anyone willing to count lives instead of headlines. If you want the literal outcomes, what charges stick, which crates end up where, who signs what statements, those belong to the feature. What this recap can guarantee is the pleasure of watching grown people do difficult work under pressure and the provocation of a thesis that lingers. The most dangerous animals are the ones who can call harm, care, and make the world believe them, until someone doesn't.